Hi everybody, this is Lee Martins reporting to you on the Missing Booster Club Funds case study. We'll start with a brief background on the situation. We are at George Washington Middle School, houses about 450 students. The school population, kind of a low SES issue going on, but there's still lots of parent involvement, which is awesome. Mr. Stevens is the only principal at this building. He does not have an assistant, and he relies heavily on the parent volunteers to make after-school programs run and during school. Mrs. Bauman is a devout PTA member, has 3 children, and 2 of them already went through this middle school, and 1 is currently at the middle school with Mr. Stevens. She brings up a deal and says, "Hey, Mr. Stevens, can I use PTA funds, $798, towards my daughter's travel expenses for cheerleading function in New York, and traveling, 3 days of food, all that good stuff." Mr. Stevens respectfully declines, very graciously, saying that giving money to one student's not okay. It needs to be for the entire student population. I side with him. Okay. Mrs. Bowman clearly needed the money and reached out and was kind of, please rethink it, and it didn't work. So fast forward, Mrs. Bowman is working the admission gates to the last basketball game of the season. A gentleman, Mr. DeMoss, has a $50 bill he gives her, and Mr. Stevens recognizes that because he had a conversation with him, and he knows there should be a $50 bill in that cash bag. However, when he gets the cash bag and the report from Mrs. Bauman, there are 10 tickets that were deemed damaged, but we don't know if they're not accounted for. We don't see them. The report does not match the total of what is in the bag, even with that 10 damaged tickets. So there's a discrepancy among funds. So where did it go? That's our problem. The great mystery continues. Where is the money from the gate? I do know a couple of things. I need to be rational. We need to figure out step by step how to do this. Okay. Balance, the report did not balance itself. It did not make sense. We're missing money. There is no $50 bill in the bag. Suspicion. I know Mrs. Bowman needs money. She just asked me for it, right? She's a great lady. I've worked with her a lot of times. You know, I don't want to ruffle feathers. No supervision was taking place while this money was being handled by parent volunteers. At this point, there's a lot of people in the community that could benefit from more money, not just Mrs. Bauman. I need to stay professional and preserve my relationships, so I'm going to handle this professionally and tactfully, right? I need to find out a lot of stuff in order to try to solve this problem. Who else was working the gate? Were any of these people ever left alone with the cash box? Was anybody else possibly have access to the cash box? Are there security cameras? That could be great. We have them at my school. I would look at that right away. What are the district's procedures for when a cash box is emptied? Do I have to call particular people? Do I have to get law enforcement involved? I don't know. Did someone cash in a $100 bill and get lots of 20s for change? But a $100 bill was never noticed or mentioned in the case study, so I'm kind of thinking that's kind of out. Where are those damaged tickets? And are there damaged tickets? I'm kind of curious if that is additional money taken other than maybe that $50. So those are things I'm going to go look for. As a principal, my first step is the investigation part. I would start my investigation speaking to the volunteers who ran the gate specifically for that money box. Mrs. Bauman included, and according to district policy, usually there's more than one person doing that. So I would call them both in and just kind of express, hey, this is what I have. Do you guys have any ideas what could happen? Kind of working together as a team to try to not ruffle feathers or blame or accuse anybody. I want to know about the $50 bill. Did they see it? I want to know were there larger bills cashed, which I doubt it. Who else had access to the money? Was at any time one of those volunteers left alone with the cash box? Did Mr. DeMoss actually pay with a $50 bill? Did he forget and pay with a 20? Was that a mistake? What is their side of the story? I need to know. Knowing this, I'm going to assume nobody's fessing up and we just maybe don't know what happened to that money. Either way, money's been mishandled under my supervision. So we need to start the supervision. Money from now on needs to be monitored by a staff member or by me. That has to happen. I need to be holding parent training sessions and for volunteers for correct money procedure handling, because maybe there's a misunderstanding, maybe we don't know what's going on. I also need to make sure there's always 2 people working the money and filling out proper forms, and I need to teach them how to fill out those forms, right? I really appreciate Mr. Stevens' security guard that helped him, and they counted together. I would go a step farther and have both volunteers, the security guard and myself, together counting that money in a secure place at the end of the shift. We could catch it then. Maybe this could have been completely resolved by the time we left for the evening. Well, we never know. Reporting. Man, I'm calling the district first thing in the morning. I'm going to get clear on my to-dos, the policy guidelines, who do I need to contact, and what sort of forms do I need to fill out so that this doesn't come back on me and that we're clear for audit. I do not want any discrepancies with my bookkeeping or money box for that matter. And if someone does fess up, what do I do about it? Do I just ask them to pay me back? There's got to be something else that has to happen in my opinion, but we'll see. When working with such a sensitive issue like this, where it could potentially damage relationships in your community, you really have to just think students first. I don't want to go out on a tangent and yell at people. I can't do that. I have to be kind and courteous. I want those families still involved in our school because it's what's best for the kids. I'm going to continue to build that rapport with the parents. I'm going to alternate Miss Bauman's responsibilities other than money handling and maybe do a better job at rotating. Those tighter controls with that education and some staff monitoring will lock up that system. And I need to recruit more staff members. I don't know if I am allowed to pay them. I don't know if it's a district policy where I can't because of contractual agreements. I cannot make somebody come in. Can I give them incentives for coming to help me at an event? Those are part of my resolutions, and I have to get more help. I have to have a tighter enforcement. I have to watch closely my parent volunteers, and I got to keep those parents involved. This whole case study would really have me thinking hard about who stole the money. Just, I don't know where it went would really bother me. I'm that kind of person. I need to have an answer, and I'm going to look for it. I'm going to be tactful about it, but I am going to try my best to figure that out. What other holes are in my systems that I have that could potentially be taken advantage of? Because it happened once, don't want it to happen again. Could I have handled Mrs. Bauman differently? Could I have requested different ways to help her raise that money for her daughter? Was me just saying, no, not okay? Because I'm technically not in charge of PTA funds. That's PTA. Could she have asked them and maybe they could have handled it? That's a what if. And what do I need to do to make sure that this does not happen again? Am I taking the right measures and the right steps? My feelings about this, I know I can envision myself counting that money with a security guard. I would freak out. Where's that money? I would triple, quadruple count. I would take that home. I'd not sleep on it. And then I would be on a roll the next day. So I would be super nervous to interrogate those people I've spent so long building relationships with, especially one who's I've seen several of their children go through my school. I'm going to be forever suspicious now and a little tainted with that. Like I need to make sure to not trust, and I hate to be an untrustworthy or untrustful person, but I think you kind of have to always have your guard up so that you make sure policies are going. You can't ever just assume everyone's going to be okay and trustworthy, right? I will be very confident that I am going to take action the way I should, and I'm going to get this matter dealt with and handled in a very timely fashion. And I'm going to make sure that I am in compliance with everything, so I'm going to feel good about my decisions that I've made. What am I most valuing during this situation? Those relationships. I don't want to make any, I don't want to disturb anybody. I don't want to mess up the relationships I've worked so hard to get. And that directly affects the students' progress at school, 100%. Relationships are my biggest thing. And I want to do what's best for the students. I don't want their parents going home bad-mouthing the school and the administration, because that's just going to roll right off into the progress of their child, and I do not want that to happen. I am going to value my district because I know they will take care of me. I know they will help me through this, and I know if I ask for support and show that certain things are happening because I am short-staffed, I am going to trust in them to help me out and give me what I need. Unresolved issues. How do I make up for the lost funds? Who is going? How can we be sure that more support is given to Mr. Stevens? Will those new controls and the education for the volunteers actually help this and prevent it from happening? Will the daughter be able to go to New York? You never know. And will my investigation and my actions hinder any relationships or undermine my own authority? Will I be credible still to those people? To ensure that I am an effective and efficient manager of the school, being prompt, time sensitive, comply with all district policies, I am going to revise and problem solve with the current issues and come up with new guidelines and educate and teach those of what I need. I'm going to monitor, I'm going to ask for help and get what I need to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And I want to make sure the money stays at our school. I want to be on top of things, and I did already from catching it that night, and nothing will slip by me if I have tight internal controls and I make sure that things are running smoothly. Social activities after school are very important for student learning. Helps you build that community, and it's super important that despite the issue that took place with the money, the show still goes on. We still need to make sure that the children have their events, they can still have their sporting activities, and we still have the staffing that's needed to do so. Being professional in this matter would really kind of boost your credibility as a leader and send a message to the other volunteers that, this principal means business and this is how she operates and she expects it. Holding everyone to those high expectations. And I really want to make sure those parents stay with us. We need those parents, and we need that social connection with our community to make sure our students learn. I really think we need more staff, more school staff in those events. We want to have the students see more faces that are familiar and build those connections outside of the classroom. The teachers can monitor the money collection, help supervise the athletic event, and they're involved with the families and communicating, and that's great. And because we're having these new safeguards in place, that money is staying. It's staying at our school, and our students will benefit academically from that money. Hey, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. I've had a great class, and thank you so much for everything.